great players. They have a great organization. And you tell them one thing.
What is good, Raider Nation? It's your boy Raider Alex back with another video for you guys. In this video, guys, we're going to be talking about the last victory against the Denver Broncos. What does that win mean for this team moving forward? Let's talk about it. Before I get started on that, anybody that is new to the channel, you guys love Raiders related content like this, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. With that being said, let's jump right into it. Now, last week, the Las Vegas Raiders finally got their third victory of the season. It feels like it's been such a damn long time since I saw that team win, but the Raiders got their third win of the season after going on a 3-game losing streak, beating the Denver Broncos in overtime with a walk-off touchdown pass to the superstar Davante Adams in overtime. Now, what does this win essentially mean for this team moving forward? Could this win potentially give us more confidence for head coach Josh McDaniels and this team, what we're building moving forward? Let's talk about it. Now, this victory, in my opinion, is definitely meaningless in terms of any type of playoff implications for the season, because personally I just see absolutely no way for this team to somehow, some way sneak into the playoffs. We just got off to such a terrible start in the season. We just dug ourselves such a huge hole that even if we went on some crazy hot winning streak, which even then that's a long shot, but even if we were able to do that, I still think we would miss the playoffs. Now, just because it's very unlikely that we will make the playoffs, does that necessarily mean that I think it would be beneficial for this team to lose as many games as possible and try to tank and essentially get that number 2 overall pick, or shit, even potentially get the number 1 overall pick if the Texans somehow, some way end up winning some games? Look, it's a very interesting question, because I can see where some people would want us to just completely tank and get the highest draft pick possible, but at the same time I can also see a lot of benefits of winning some games, and especially winning close games, which especially for this team has been one of their biggest weaknesses of this season thus far. But the way I look at it, after losing to the Indianapolis Colts, where we lost to an interim head coach and Jeff Saturday, the guy that has absolutely zero head coaching experiences, we had just lost 3 straight games, which, before the season we would have thought all those games were very winnable games. We lost all 3 of those, and just seeing how bad it seemed the locker room was getting, seeing our starting quarterback Derek Carr go out there in the media, be very emotional, shed some tears. It definitely felt like this team had hit rock bottom, and that there was a strong possibility that head coach Josh McDaniels had lost the locker room. I feared that possibly players inside the locker room potentially could have lost some faith, maybe lost respect, and ultimately had quit on head coach Josh McDaniels, and ultimately quit on this team in general. Now, with this win against a divisional rival, and most importantly how the locker room responded to such a negative atmosphere that they were going through this season, and seeing how this team celebrated and looked united inside that locker room, definitely was something positive to take away from this victory, and potentially a good building block for this next season and building a winning culture for this franchise. Because let's be honest, if we would have lost all the remaining games of the season, if we would have gotten 2-15, especially the overall state of the team how it was, if we would have ended up going 2-15, even if we got the number 1, number 2 overall pick, the overall state of this team would just likely be an all-time low, and I personally would just feel a lot less confident in McDaniels moving forward, regardless if we had the number 1, number 2 overall pick in the draft. Also too, it's tough because players do not tank. Let's be honest. These players, week in and week out, are fighting for their careers. There's a lot of players on this team that are on 1-year contracts, so they want to play as best as possible. That way they can extend their careers. And just in general, the NFL is such a dangerous sport with a limited shelf life, so there's no way in hell that these players, if they have an opportunity to make some game-changing plays, that they won't make them just because they want to have a higher draft pick. That's not going to happen. And with that being said, I still think that this team has quite a bit of talent on it. So I don't think this team, with the amount of talent we have, we would only get 3 to 4 wins. I anticipate this team to probably get somewhere around 5 to 6 wins moving forward in the season, which should still get us a high draft pick. And when the time comes, we will either make our pick, or maybe we will even think about trading that pick back, whatever that case may be. But ultimately, I made this video because in my last video I had stated that I thought McDaniels, if he hadn't already lost the locker room at that point in time, it quite certainly felt like he was losing the locker room. My ultimate confidence in McDaniels was an all-time low after that loss against the Colts. But with this win, with the team at least fighting and playing with some type of pride, definitely showed me something. I have to give McDaniels some type of credit on that. Now, I'm not saying that I'm completely sold on Josh McDaniels just over one win against a bad football team in the Denver Broncos, but I can definitely see how this win could be beneficial in the long term for this team. Now, at the end of the day, as I mentioned earlier, this win to me is meaningless if you are still hopeful to make the playoffs. But if the Raiders can just continue to be competitive moving forward and even win some big games against playoff caliber teams, this will give everyone in that building more confidence in each other, and it can allow this team to learn how to win close games and potentially build something moving forward towards next season. Also, I mean, with McDaniels too, I mean, he needs to build that confidence too. He needs to get victories, because if he would have had a terrible 2-15 record at that point, you look at his overall body of work as an NFL head coach, how is he going to be confident in himself, and how are we as a fan base going to be confident in a guy that only won 2 games? Now, the Raiders have a tough schedule moving forward, and it starts on the road this week at Seattle, which that has always been a very tough stadium and a tough environment to get a victory in. Also, add the fact that the Seahawks are on pace to make the playoffs in the NFC, and overall they look like a very solid football team. Pete Carroll's got that team looking very motivated after what everybody thought was going to be a rebuilding year for them. It looks like they're building something over there in Seattle, especially with their young running back Kenneth Walker and Geno Smith playing good football. This is going to be a tough game to get the victory in. I will be in attendance for the Seattle game. So me personally, even though I know we're not going to make the playoffs, I hope we can somehow, some way get that victory, because there's nothing like getting a road victory. But overall, you know, I don't want to overhype this win over the Denver Broncos, because like I said earlier, the Broncos, they are just like us in my opinion. They're a bad football team as well. I mean, their defense is very solid, but they got a very atrocious offense at this moment. And you know, Josh McDaniels too, he had those 2 games against Denver before the season. He had those games circled. He had those games locked in. He did not want to lose against the Denver Broncos. Also, you look at the last 3 years, for whatever reason, we have just had the Denver Broncos number. We have swept them in 3 straight years, which, hey man, that's also something that you love to see, getting victories over divisional rivals. But ultimately, yeah, I'm not going to overhype it, because 2 of our wins came against the Denver Broncos, and we also got another win against the Houston Texans, which are the worst team in football at the moment. But with the Raiders playing stronger competition in the final stretch of the season, I think we will get to see what this locker room, what the spirit, what the attitude of this football team really is. And at the end of the day, I hope we can continue to improve, and I wouldn't mind seeing us get some upset victories against these playoff caliber teams, and ultimately have McDaniels and this team bring some confidence. But Raider Nation, let me know what you guys think. Are you guys a fan of trying to win as many games as possible, even though it looks like the playoffs are a long shot at this point? Or are you more of the mindset that you'd rather just tank every single game, try to get the #1 overall pick? Let me know in the comment section down below. But with that being said, Raider Nation, that is all I have for you guys in today's video. Anybody that is new to the channel, you guys love Raiders related content like this, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. With that being said, I'll see you guys in the next one.